Inshallah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may accept our deeds and siyam and fasting and prayers in this month, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. As you are following me since the beginning of this month of Ramadan, we started our talk and discussion about the role of ma'soomeen, infallible imams, among people in different societies throughout the history of human being. I hope that, well, as it deserves actually to be covered, as we are just very quickly passing the days one after another. So we have come across this very important point about infallible ma'soomeen, about the immaculate household and progeny of Prophet Mohammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that their presence sometimes is important for us just because they are answering our needs. They actually come up with the responses to our difficulties. Sometimes when we face calamities, hardships, disastrous situations, we go to their doors, we go to their shrines, we plead to them, and then we ask them honestly and wholeheartedly so that our difficulties would be answered and replied. We have discussed this kind of aspect of the important presence of Ma'soomeen alayhim as-salam in the previous two sessions, and today also there is an important question that we have to address. That important question is, when we go and then when we do pilgrimage, when we finish, or let's say when we embark on the ziyarah of Ma'soomeen alayhim as-salam, what is that very innate and inner intention of us when we ask our infallible Ma'soomeen or Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam? Do we really think that, well, for example, when we go and visit the shrine of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam or the shrine of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam, do we really think that they will directly answer our questions and then come up with the solutions to our problems? Or it is another way around. They are not actually answering our question. They are the mediators between us and God. They only bridge this gap between the creatures, and the Creator. Which one of the two is the true one? Well, mostly to the extent that I know, most of the people that they will go and then they will read, for example, the book that has been prescribed for the pilgrimage to do a proper ziyarah, they are unconscious about it. They don't care, but actually this is not the question for them or in their mind. Simply they will go, if, for example, they are too much following the instructions of ziyarah, they will do the ghusl, they will purify themselves, well, physically and then spiritually, and they will prepare themselves, they will go to the shrine, they start like this, open the book of ziyarah, they will recite, and then they will ask for their own needs, okay? And then they will wait for the responses. They don't think that how this response is going to be delivered, how these needs are going to be covered, how these demands are going to be satisfied. They don't have these questions in their mind. They don't actually sometimes care. Or let's say we don't care. We just, what just matters to us is my answer should be found. Okay. I'm, for example, in a very emergency situation right now, and then, for example, my daughter and then my children, for example, has gone through a very bad, for example, sometimes incurable disease. And right now, I need the answer. I don't know how. I don't know who. I don't know when, why, where. But I need that answer. This is what matters to me. I don't care sometimes. So this is a very important question theologically. Who is really responsible? God or Ma'sumin themselves? To answer this very important question, I want your careful attention towards some verses of Holy Quran. Let us just go and delve into the verses of Quran in order to find out that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in His holy book in order to address this question. So for example, if we assume this kind of response of Ma'sumin, as it is one of the important aspects of their presence in the society of human beings, this is, of course, important for us. If, for example, we go sometimes repeatedly to their shrines and we do not find any answer, we say that, okay, that's enough. It's something that I've been fooled with. Okay, I don't want to go to the doors that I cannot hear anyone behind it or any answer to come out of it. Okay? So when, for example, sometimes we will go, let us just really test ourselves. This would be a very true examination. If we are loyal to this system of Ma'sumin alayhim as-salam, even 1,000 times, unlimitedly, let's say, we will resort to these shrines even if there is no any answer, if we believe them. But is this really a case with us, with most of us? For example, if I will go to the shrine of Lady Ma'suma alayhi salam in Qom, and I do not find the answer to my needs, would I be the yesterday person in order to go and visit her and in her shrine, for example? Well, wholeheartedly and honestly, and then with a pure heart again? Or there will be some question marks in my mind, or there will be some doubts in my heart that why I didn't get a response. So this is I think one of the trial that we can go through in order to test our faith. So because mostly in faith there is no any question, to the extent that I know. But anyhow, let's return to the verses of Holy Quran in order to find out. So it is kind of miraculous action, mostly when we are struck by, for example, some calamities that we do not find normally the answers within the society. We will go to their shrines. Unfortunately, let's say, I have to confess this reality. That, for example, if I want a job or a promotion in my job, or for example, I'm looking for some good standards in my lifestyle, okay, or the status quo. So normally what I do is that I will try my best. I will depend on my own effort, and then I think that I will gain it. There is no any strike over my mind, let's say, that maybe I can also seek refuge to God here. Maybe I can take asylum to God in order to find also the better way. No, normally this is not the way. When we are at the end of the, solution and we do not find any other ways, we will go. And then we are completely discouraged, we're completely hopeless. We will go to their shrines. So it should be, the response should be something miraculous. Because the other doors were completely closed. They did not come up with the solution to my of course, question. So if this is kind of miraculous action, now let us go to find out who is responsible for those miraculous action in Holy Quran, according to what the verses of Holy Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned. This is exactly why, the very reason and philosophy behind just referring to the verses of Holy Quran. Here, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the miracle that happened and took place when Namrud and then his companions decided to throw Prophet Ibrahim to the fire. They compiled a very large number of the woods, and then they had to, so much that they had to throw it far away from the fire. It was that big, that fire. So we do have a verse here exactly in this context that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in chapter Anbiya verse 69 has mentioned the following statement. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is exactly the very verse that I recited in the beginning of today's session. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قلنا يا نار كوني بردا وسلاما على إبراهيم. So undoubtedly, for a fire to be cooled down and to remain safe, not to burn a person, for sure, and indeed it is a miracle. This is not something that naturally would happen. So most of the times when, for example, we touch the fire, we will be burnt, okay? So an extraordinary job that happened in the time of Prophet Ibrahim. So who was responsible for this miracle? So according to this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, قُلْنَا يَا نَارَ كُونِي. We have mentioned to the fire to be cool and safe for Prophet Ibrahim. So now this verse has attributed that miracle to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At least according to this verse, it has nothing to do with Prophet Ibrahim. Okay? So this is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is responsible for this kind of change in the transit nature of fire that is always burning. But then this time it stopped burning Prophet Ibrahim. But then who was responsible for that? قُلْنَا يَا نَارِ كُونِي. We said that you have to be cool and safe for Prophet Ibrahim. Okay, this is one verse. Let us go and read the stories of Prophet Musa. I can say Prophet Musa was a prophet who has come with most miracles in Holy Quran. Even if you go, for example, something about 15 to 20 miracles have been indicated in Holy Quran just about Prophet Musa. So for example, we do have, well, different instances here. Like what? Like for example, in chapter Arab, verse 133, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَأَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمُ الطُّوفَانَ وَالْجَرَادَ وَالْقُمَّلَ وَالصَّفَادِعَ وَالدَّمْ آيَاتٍ مُفَصَّلًا. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, وَأَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ. We sent to them. I mean, to whom? To the people, to also Israelites, let's say. To the people that they were living under the command of pharaohs or Pharaoh, okay? So here he has mentioned, وَأَرْسَلْنَا. We have sent those problems and calamities to those tribes, or to that nation, that they were arrogant, that they were proud of their position in the society, because you know that we did have Israelites that they've been the elites of their own society. They consider themselves to be the superior to others. And then, of course, Bani Israel, who were migrated, of course, from the other spot, coming to Egypt, and they have been taken as inferior. Okay? So many signs have been sent to those arrogant people. In the time of Prophet Musa, when he appeared to the tribe, who was responsible for those? Like, for example, a flood. Like, for example, the Nile River has turned into blood. Like, for example, lice. Like, for example, the appearance of frogs. So all this happened repeatedly, one after another. Each has got its certain definite course and duration. But then all here have been attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, وَأَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ. We have sent. Then here again we do not find an attribution to Prophet Musa. Or for example, there is another verse in chapter Baqarah, verse 57, وَظَلَّلْنَا عَلَيْكُمُ الْغَمَامَ وَظَلَّلْنَا عَلَيْكُمُ الْغَمَامَ وَأَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَنَّ وَالسَّلْوَى. So we shade over your head. When, for example, they have gone, the Bani Israel, to Sinai desert, and they have been kind of stuck in the desert for 40 years. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was responsible in the desert to shade over their head. They did not have any special building, for example, to go on their roof so that they will be saved from the sunlight, especially in the desert. وَظَلَّلْنَا. Again, we have sent to them the shadows. We have shade over them, okay? وَأَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَنَّ وَالسَّلْوَى. We have sent to you man, that very, for example, we can say tasty, sweet liquid, and sell a quail. So we were responsible for all these miracles. We're talking about the prophets, Prophet Musa, Prophet Ibrahim, and then Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Whose most evident verse, whose most evident evidence we can say an ayah is Holy Quran. Okay, this is the most important miracle of Holy Prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then in this holy month it has been recommended for us to recite this verse a lot. Chapter Qadr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. We descended Quran in this holy month, and especially in the night of destinies, or in the layal al-qadr. Okay. We do have only one exception, that the Prophet has done a miraculous action, or he has come up with a miracle, and then that miracle has been attributed to the Prophet, not to God. And that exception is the story of Prophet Isa. In chapter Al-Imran, he's come up with, for example, وَرَسُولًا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ أَنِّي قَدْ جِئْتُكُمْ بِآيَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ أَنِّي أَخْلُقُ لَكُم مِّنَ الطِّينِ كَهَيْئَةِ الطَّيْرِ فأنفخ فيه فيكون طيرا بإذن الله وأبرئ الأكمه والأبرص وأحيي الموتى بإذن الله. So I'm responsible for, so much like we'll find that Prophet Isa is attributing all those really miraculous and extraordinary actions to himself. So I'm the one who is going to create a form of the bird, and then I have to breathe into it, and it will be like a very live bird. أخلق لكم من الطين كهيئة الطير فأنفخ فيه. I will breathe into it, not God. فيكون طيرا. Okay. وأبره الأكمه والأبرص. And I heal the blind. I heal the lepers. Okay. So here we'll find a kind of maybe controversy here, which we'll find the verses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the story of Prophet Isa is a little bit different from those of other prophets. Or let's say the miracles of Prophet Isa is a little bit different. Why? The language has been changed here. What I want to say is that, well, there are also very deep interpretations and explanations, but the final answer and reply to this question would be that, again, we'll find there is a very key, let's say, term that has got a very important role in this verse. Bi-idhnillah. So it has been mentioned also in this verse that even if you're doing it, but that is just because of my permission, Allah's leave, Allah's permission, without which Prophet Isa is not able and capable of doing some extraordinary actions like this. So, when this is the case with the prophets, and almost all cases will find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has regarded himself responsible for the application of those miracles, so is the case with the Ahlul Bayt, alayhim as-salam. So here there is a kind of, again, discussion that we will find what the commander of the faithful Ali ibn Abi Talib sometimes is doing, or he's done, for example, during his own lifetime. What nowadays will go to the shrines of Ma'sumin and will just be replied. When, for example, those Christians back home in my country, they have seen so many miracles from Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, so much so that in Muharram, they are themselves responsible for very huge gatheration of Armenians in my country, especially in my city, that they will establish, they will just start to have a very huge gatheration only because their love for Abu al-Fadl Abbas, because they have seen it, they have tasted it, they have completely felt it, let's say, by their heart, that Abul Fatih al-Abbas is a person who is answering their requests. And this is very famous around the world, that Armenians in different corners of Iran, I think not only in Iran, maybe different countries, but this is exactly where I saw it. And then sometimes even I myself personally and intentionally attended their gatheration in order to find what's just going on. Sometimes their requests are to be answered, but our requests are not going to be answered by Abul Fatih al-Abbas. What's just going on? What is the important success for these Armenians? Let us also maybe find what they are doing, so that we Muslims also be educated and be learned from them. What is that very mysterious, esoteric, let's say, I don't know, maybe spells that they will do that they will attract Abul Fatih al-Abbas to answer their demands and whatever they need. And then they are very honest. So all, for example, these people, they have seen these miraculous responses to their needs. Should we also assume that, well, for example, Abul Fatih al-Abbas himself is responsible, or God? Should we assume that, for example, infallible ma'sumin are responsible for that, or God? According to these verses of Quran, this is very important. I mean, since now or onward, what we should have in our mind is that they are mediators between us and God. Okay? Or even if they are doing themselves, it is just under the supervision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? This is exactly what, and based on which we can separate ourselves from polytheism or shirk. Okay? So whether we have to say that this has been done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala under the mediation of these people, or we have to say that they have done it, but under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission. Okay, it means that in both cases they are completely dependent on God. Okay, so directly they are doing it, but indirectly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a person who is just, let us setting up all the scenario. Everything is about, is centered upon God. So this is very important for us. And then there are some discussions regarding the differences between miracles and, let's say, these extraordinary jobs done by ma'sumin. Are they also like prophets coming up with the miracles? Can we call them also theologically and religiously as miracles? Or miracles is only something which is going to be shown and expressed by a prophet in order to prove his prophethood. Okay? Because Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam do not need to prove anything anymore that I'm a prophet of God. So there are some discussions here that we may postpone it for another time. Thank you very much for your patience. I'm sorry if you're exhausted. I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will satisfy your demands and your requests in this holy month of Ramadan because of your pure heart. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our 12th Imam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the ones that they have come late in order to also have some